My name is Savannah Martin. I work at Qualtrics on our social media team. And so at Qualtrics, I manage all of our corporate social channels. So that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as run our employee advocacy program through EveryoneSocial. So our social media team is sits on our brand team. And one thing that we goal ourselves on as a social media team is brand growth, measuring brand growth. So our employee advocacy program through EveryoneSocial is a huge piece of that.
So how maybe just on that topic, like how do you think about brand growth? How do you measure that? What have you seen? I know everyone at Qualtrics I've ever worked with or known is, very kind of data goal oriented. So maybe you can help us understand that a little bit more.
Yes, we are for sure a data company. So in relation to brand growth, so like we see, I mentioned all the social media channels that I run, but we see Everyone Social as our sixth social media channel, and so it's like
Mm,
really a gateway into our employees' channels, and actually. It's our largest social media channel in total size. So making Everyone Social a very powerful tool for brand to use. One of the ways that we measure that, is as a social team is by impressions,
mm.
impressions, shares. But with Everyone Social, we can also measure our employees' impressions, but then the total size of their audience. And so our primary goal with Everyone Social, as a brand is to increase the authentic reach of our brand. And so there's really better way to increase your reach authentically than through employee advocacy and employee sharing. So it's definitely a very powerful lever that we have and like to pull. But it's exciting to see, especially now, some of the new ways that we can track the impact that our employees have on brand growth.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before, that thinking about their advocacy program as kind of a network, because that's always been our view as well, is that, like, because when you think of a network, right, you think about it in terms of kind of like a community, right? I mean, like, how do you get people engaged? What are the kind of things that you want to present them? How do you drive engagement? Like all the things that you would think, I would imagine, think about kind of generating from a brand perspective on one of the third party social networks are totally relevant considerations to driving the advocacy side of things. Have you guys always thought about it like that, kind of advocacy as one of the networks, or is that something that's kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, no, I mean it for sure, especially like in the last year to 2 years, as social has evolved, right? Like our Everyone Social has become a very important network for us because the way that social has been shifting is, that's it's largely deprioritizing brand channels, like
Mm-hmm.
brand accounts, and prioritizing influencers and
Mm-hmm.
creators. And so that's something that we have been seeing on our social team. And so, it makes it we have a really strong initiative to build up our employees as, creators, as advocates. And so, from a marketing perspective, Everyone Social is our best way to do that. So, as a part of like every major launch, every major campaign, there, that is the piece that's added to our social promotion or launch is Everyone Social. So making sure that we have the right message for employees to share globally, to help increase that message and that reach.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point, which is something that I think people are thinking more and more about now, and it's kind of been the case forever, but it becomes kind of even more clear when we're all having to kind of make hard budget decisions, around perhaps what we're spending on ads or paid channels or the results that we're seeing through our brand efforts. Is the networks just simply prioritize posts from people above, everything
Yeah.
else, algorithmically, and
Hmm.
employees are people. So,
Yeah.
you know, That's kind of the core of like why advocacy. Well, if you want your stuff to be seen in an authentic manner and frankly seen by the greatest number of people, you want to do that through a channel that is actually rewarded by these platforms as opposed to constricted. But you mentioned campaigns, so that's frankly why we got kind of reconnected and wanted to chat. Talk about this recent campaign. I know it was centered around an event, but
Yeah.
would love to hear background on kind of just even the basics, kind of what it was.
Yeah. Happy to start talking about our campaign, and I'll first like kind of give a little background on it, and why this is one of the new additions to our program. But so with the launch of public post pages with EveryoneSocial, we were able to like really kind of like rethink our approach to employee advocacy into our program. So really like we were able to go, think beyond like, okay, instead of just employee advocacy, which relies on like an employee network growth or employee growth, for us to see, brand growth of the program. What if we expand to just an advocacy program, which could include like customers, prospects,
Interesting.
Qualtrics users, alumni, partners, company fans. And so, which expanding our program to be thinking of more of an advocacy program, would only garner like increased eyeballs on our brand content, on our marketing content. So we put this to test in a recent campaign by testing out public post pages. So we just wrapped up our XM Innovation event, which is our marquee product moment of the year. And so we hosted this event globally, and it's a digital free event that we just wrapped up. So it featured our latest product innovations as well as guest keynote speaker Malcolm Gladwell. And so our goal as a marketing team is to drive, thousands of registrants to this event. We want people to attend. And so we thought, as a social team, we could help achieve this goal by leveraging public post pages. So we added sharing buttons to each landing page, and there was 4 global landing pages. So once folks registered for the event, they saw a share that I'm attending button, where we embedded an EveryoneSocial public post that attendees could choose to share to their LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram page. And, our thought was Qualtrics customers, prospects, users will be excited to share about this event on their social channels because it's a grow your career moment for them. People love to share about how they are leading and growing and participating in cutting edge moments in their career. And so public post pages helps us give an opportunity for folks to do that. So going back to our test and our results, so we included that share that I'm attending button on all of our global landing pages, and we saw over 800 event attendees, or fans, as I like to call them, share on social that they are attending the event. And of those that shared, we were able to drive an additional 140 event attendees. So people that would have never known about the event registered because they saw that post from a public post page.
That is super cool. So for probably most people who listen to this, the public post page, what is it, right? So it's basically a page that hosts a single piece of shareable content. So in this case, promotion of the event. And it's a page that can be accessed by anyone on the internet. So Savannah, to your point, like when we talk about employee advocacy, we think about that as, resources and tools that, typically are like just available to employees of your organization, only available to employees of Qualtrics. Mm-hmm. Well, part of kind of our view of the future of all of this is let's bring advocacy to where people already are, right? That could be inside of other tools, that could be inside of your intranet, but also on a public basis. I remember years ago, I think I was talking with one of your former colleagues, Shonda, and mm-hmm. We were talking about the alumni network. And this was, 2-3 years ago. the number of alumni who had worked at Qualtrics at one point in time was greater than the current number of total employees.
Yeah.
So, there's like these rings of additional communities. We're not even talking about customers, right? Or these other kind of very large groups. But so like the results are amazing. How does this make you think about kind of the future of, advocacy or employee advocacy at Qualtrics? Like, what are you thinking about next? What are you thinking about for the future?
Yeah, I as far as the future goes, this has for sure expanded our thoughts on the future, and thoughts on what a good employee advocacy looks like, right? So, so I think like instead of just thinking about employee advocacy, like we will be now moving towards, especially going into next year, how can we create an advocacy program and take what's working well here and leverage it for, partners, customers, prospects, employees, and alumni. And then so that's sort of, focus one, but then focus two is to really double down on driving effective employee advocacy. So my counterpart, Sydney, on our talent brand team, is actually launching a brand ambassador program at Qualtrics with EveryoneSocial as the backbone of the program. So the brand ambassador program is going to be a 3-month program where employees, will apply, and once accepted, will get the training, tools, and resources to grow their brand on social. But then we'll also become a brand ambassador for Qualtrics. And so we will be tracking and measuring and enabling these employees through EveryoneSocial, and as well as the leaderboard in EveryoneSocial. So I'm super excited for this program that Sydney is building. In my mind, to take an employee advocacy program to the next level, you need to have some rigor behind development opportunities from it for employees. And so that's exactly what Sydney is building. So, next year, we're really kind of attacking this in 2 ways. So like going really deep on employee advocacy and making sure our employees are, building networks effectively and sharing successfully. And then broadly from an advocacy perspective and like taking what's been working well, taking that out, across our ecosystem to partners, customers, prospects, alumni, additional employees. So I'm really excited about this next year. Been doing employee advocacy programs for a while now, and I certainly think like what we built at Qualtrics has been successful, but I think next year will be probably the most impact that we've ever had. In the way that we're really trying to expand broadly, but then get very focused with our employees and enabling them to build successful programs for themselves.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing what we like really have hoped to kind of see as far as like the evolution. I mean, it seems like you're kind of busting out of the shell, of like just employees inside the company, and but certainly, employer branding, anything related to talent. I know it's a little bit of like a dicey world out there right now as far as like who's hiring and whatnot, but like I wish I could talk about all that use case kind of all day long because it's so powerful. Recruiters, employer branding content. It's just like tailor made for people to share. People want to engage with. They want to understand what it's like to be inside of Qualtrics. What's the culture, those sorts of things, and of course Qualtrics is the experience company, anyways. And then thinking about not just employees, but going to some of these other communities and constituency groups like customers and stuff. It's just really exciting. So, kudos to you and the team for kind of pushing these boundaries. One question I have is, leadership's always either on the periphery or they're involved. Like, how have you thought about leadership? Are they currently included at any level on this? Visibility as far as results, like just for for you and Sydney and the rest of the team, how have you thought about leadership at Qualtrics and kind of their role as it relates to your efforts?
Yeah, so as far as leadership goes, we have started to really make known our results from Everyone Social to leaders. So especially from the success that we've had from this most recent campaign
Yeah.
where we had, over 800 shares of our event, that's, not employee shares. These are prospects and customers, and that really got leaders excited. So that was an exciting moment for leadership, and one that they were really surprised about the results. So we've been regularly communicating Everyone Social and sharing results to our leaders, and this got them really excited. But then more broadly, Everyone Social is a household name at Qualtrics now. And in fact, with every campaign that we launch, we present it as a marketing team in our company all hands. And during the company all hands, we have QR codes with Everyone Social sharing links, a post tailor made to each employee in a specific region to go and share. And so we've been, really focused on getting company-wide getting a company-wide sharing movement going through these regular campaign launches and through our all hands. But one really exciting moment recently is we announced a new speaker for our event, and our X4 event happening in March, and had hundreds and hundreds of employees sharing, which is really exciting and something that we can, take back to our marketing leadership and showcase some success. Like, hey, we have this our Everyone Social program is working really well, and I think going into next year, that's a major focus for us, and something that we'll only get more leaders bought in on, is to get them excited to enable their teams to go and share more, because our results have been great, and so now we just have to keep doing that going into next year. I know that you mentioned the current how people are looking at ad budgets and things like that, and that's something that we're very upfront with our teams about, of hey, we know it's going to be a tough climate next year, so let's get really good at company sharing and getting and doubling down on these efforts, and we'll get leaders bought in at the top and at the bottom, and we'll,
Yeah.
Next year, that's it. That's what we do. And so we've definitely gotten the support of our leaders lately, but we've always had them, but now they're really excited.
That's cool. No, that's awesome. And I was going to you basically answered it, but I was going to ask, what if, I know Qualtrics from a marketing perspective has always been frugal, efficient. I had a chance a couple of years ago to talk with someone who I believe is now your CMO, but who had been there for a long time. And some of the early stories about kind of how much they were able to do with little to no resource, was definitely inspiring. But what if anything are you hearing from kind of the marketing leaders right now as it relates to kind of adjusting to this environment where things are tighter and need to be leaner and more efficient? Has there been any kind of more macro messages?
Yeah, so as far as that goes, our teams we've basically been told by our leaders, going into next year, we have to really nail our upcoming campaigns. And so I think with that brings a little bit of the joy of having a very focused mind, and
Yes.
with a lot of focus around doing really well at a couple campaigns, that's where we can really lean more into building out effective sharing programs. And so maybe there's not as much budget next year to to put paid dollars behind some of these campaigns, but we can surely spend a lot of time planning out effective employee sharing, getting our field teams bought in, creating messages for partners to share, or highlighting them in, in our campaign as well. So they're excited to share. And then, creating content that is specific for each employee group or, customer or prospect, like tailored so that they're excited to share it and grow that way. And so, I think that it'll be actually a really exciting time for employee advocacy programs and advocacy in general, because everything that we've seen that we have tested out this year from like broadly from testing out on different networks and EveryoneSocial and then like influencer campaigns, our most successful like test and results have come from employee sharing or like our advocacy program, and then through influencers. So and that kind of goes hand in hand, right? Like it's just people, the power of people.
Yes.
And so I think going into next year, I mean, that's the message that our team will continue to relay to the other teams of like, we have to really enable, our network, our people network in the right way. And it's working. It's already working, and it's going to work well next year.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I think there's always something to be said for kind of operating with some restrictions, right? Kind of to your point of like, it forces us to focus more on using the tools and the resources that we have, not the stuff that, we wish we had or, whatever else. And yeah, I think like, I mean, you and the team are showing, how much more kind of depth and sophistication and value can be generated from an advocacy program. And I think there's a lot further even to go, in terms of getting to a place where, we're not only getting the most in terms of participation and whatnot from employees, but just as you said at the outset, customers, partners, alumni. Any plans for X4 promotion? I looked at the site just the other day. I think you have Oprah as a speaker, in addition to Ryan Reynolds. And I mean, talk about like, amazing, inspiring, engaging content. Any thoughts as it relates to that event?
Yeah. So we're super excited about X4. And so I'm excited because we will be, we're working on launching this now, but soon we will have sharing features in our X4 landing pages and
Nice.
registration. So people can share in new ways their excitement for attending X4, which is exciting because that's, something that we have, never had for previous X4. So something we're really excited to test out now. And then, we're still planning the actual event experience, but I'm sure that there will be a lot of sharing opportunities that we will embed throughout the Salt Palace.
Nice.
And the best thing is that we're taking X4 to the globe. So after we have X4 in Salt Lake City, we're going to go on a global tour of X4, and so that's something that we will also be, we'll be taking EveryoneSocial with us on that global tour as well. And so that's, I think our goal as a social team for this year is, to do social for X4 like we never have before, and really enable people to share like in all the new ways that they possibly can now, right? Like our last X4 was in 2019, and social has changed so much since then, so we're excited about all the new opportunities that brings.
That's cool. I mean, you already mentioned like QR codes, and I'm sure you all are thinking about interesting ways to incorporate EveryoneSocial and sharing into the event. I was at I was speaking at an event recently, and QR code native support on phones is great now, right? You just open up the camera, it detects the code, it takes you to the URL. And so this is, not rocket science, but I incorporated a couple QR codes into my presentation. One was, for instance, kind of on the speaker introduction slide, come and connect with me on LinkedIn. And then at the end of the presentation, we had a QR code linking to a summary version of the presentation with some kind of additional data and whatnot that people could get if they filled out a form. And it was a 600-person audience. And we saw, I want to say, 25% of the audience on the final QR code not only, took their camera out, clicked the link, but filled out the full form. So, I mean, it was like, yeah, I mean, just in terms of like engagement, it's so simple. You're in the audience, and then of course at X4, you're just going to have these amazing speakers and insights and presentations. I mean, just so much opportunity to, kind of leverage people and their excitement to drive sharing and awareness and whatnot. But
I love that idea. That conversion rate is incredible too.
I know. Yeah, I think it was 150 on the form filled out of 600, and on the LinkedIn Connect, it was over 200 people who clicked. It popped open LinkedIn app on their phone, and then they'd hit connect to connect with me.
Incredible.
Maybe just to wrap up, I know we're basically at time, but if there's one thing that you could ask for, like knowing what you want to do from a feature capability standpoint, doesn't need to be something that we've talked about or you think we may be thinking about, but like, what would be your ultimate wish list item as it relates to everything you want to do with advocacy?
Yeah, I love that question, and really, like, we've been able to achieve so much so far because EveryoneSocial has been innovating to set admins up for success so that we have time to focus on the things that like really matter in growing a program versus kind of the day to day. But outside of that, something that's top of my mind is especially as the world keeps moving to more like TikTok and real content, is just video capturing. And that's something like even that I think is probably the next step in our in an employee program would be like enabling them to create more video content
Yes.
and such. So yeah, even that is where my mind goes, is EveryoneSocial plus video, or maybe through like a Loom partnership or whatever. But being able to encourage employees to create more video content and share it is where my head goes next, just because we're so immersed in video right now and creating authentic video.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, that's like, personally speaking, where I feel like it's at the extreme. I'm either like writing some sort of like long form thing, or I'm doing a video. Like images are fun and links are fun, but from an engagement perspective, I think we'll do a deeper dive on the data here in the next few weeks. But preliminarily, what we saw in the last week, looking at 2022 data, was that the shares that performed the best on LinkedIn were text or video.
Yeah.
Kind of extreme ends of the spectrum. But Savannah, thank you for taking time to chat. This was awesome. It was so exciting and kind of inspiring to hear about what you all are doing, the recent campaign with the event. Would love to touch base after X4. That'll be really exciting to hear kind of what you do for that. And thank you again for taking time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Cameron. It's great to be on and talk to you again. And thanks for being excellent partners to us at Qualtrics.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Social at Scale podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please be sure to subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, please let me know. You can access past episodes on our site at everyonesocial.com/podcast. As always, please feel free to connect with me directly on Twitter or LinkedIn, and look forward to seeing you next time.